Hello and welcome to the 48th Annual AAKP National Patient Meeting, Transforming American Kidney Health. Patient takes the lead. Patients take the lead. My name is Christine Hernandez and I'm a registered nurse and a home hemodialysis patient in Illinois. In 2016, I was diagnosed with a rare disease called MUC1 kidney disease. This diagnosis transformed me as a nurse and as a patient. As a kidney patient, I continue to learn things every day, like the importance of lifestyle changes, such as eating a kidney-friendly diet, exercise, and being involved in making my healthcare decisions. I have the honor of serving as the AAKP Ambassador. Being an AAKP Ambassador has allowed me the opportunity to educate patients, advocate for our rights, and participate in clinical trials that might help advance kidney health. As a member of AAKP, I share the message that every patient has the most important voice in determining their care plan. It is imperative that an environment is created that supports kidney diseases, research, and innovations so that we are continually advancing care, improving treatments, and providing solutions for unmet patient needs. And when those innovations are FDA approved, it is crucial that all patients have access to the right to choose the treatment that's best for them in consultation with the doctor they choose to care for them. So every patient can live their best life and achieve their aspirations. And with that, I am pleased to introduce our next session titled Spotlight on Rare Diseases, Stakeholder Respond to Organized Patient Voices. We have three wonderful advocates that are making significant impacts to the rare kidney disease community across the globe. First, I'm pleased to welcome a good friend and allied partner of AAKP, Mr. Richard Nelson. Mr. Nelson is chairman and co-founder of the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation. He was diagnosed with a rare and genetic condition that causes kidney failure that has impacted generations of his family. After experiencing kidney failure himself, Richard received a successful transplant. Since that time, he has tirelessly advocated to find a treatment and cure for his family's rare genetic disease known as MKD. We welcome Mr. Nelson to share with us his life's work that has led to amazing breakthroughs and the stand-up of Rare Kidney Disease Foundation. Richard, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be back with AAKP, my great friends Paul Conway and Diana Kleins. 36 years ago, I started to slow down. I was only in my 30s. I was surprised to be diagnosed with a genetic disease, polycystic kidney disease, which most of you know has a 50% impact on your family also getting that disease. I was blessed 32 years ago with a transplant from a 17-year-old girl in upstate New York. But that disease was not a rare disease. 8 years ago, the Mayo Clinic, where I'd been involved for 23 years with different studies with my family, introduced me to Tony Blyer of the Wake Forest Medical Center, who's devoted his life to discovering a treatment or treatments for rare diseases. And he works closely with the Broad Institute in Boston, that is the top genetic organization in the world. And we finally found out what we had. The bad news is there are only 600 people in the world. Now that's why I'm here today to talk about rare diseases, and in my case, an ultra rare disease by the name of MUC1. The broader name is ADTKD, which many of you know about. 5 years ago, I helped found the Rare Kidney Disease Foundation to help Dr. Anna Greca and Tony, Dr. Blyer, who cared deeply about patients and who needed a voice, who needed an advocacy organization. So that's why we founded it. So what do we do as a foundation? The Rare Kidney Disease Foundation is a patient-driven organization which envisions a future where literally tens of thousands of undiagnosed patients are hopeful about stopping that disease with a near-term drug therapy. And I want to talk about that later. But as you can see in the slide, expanding awareness and building a trusted community and advocating effectively, that's what we're in the business to do as a foundation. And we're well on our way, especially over the last 2 years. We're expanding awareness with patients and families, the medical and nephrology community, but we need your help. AAKP is ideal as it has many members that are undiagnosed, that are on dialysis even. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Building a trusted community. Rare diseases are lonely. I remember 30 plus years ago how that felt, and especially because it was a genetic disease that was going to pass to my family of 5 children. But it's about friends and support. It gives hope for real treatment, even a FDA-approved drug that will stop the disease, which is what I want to share with you. Advocating effectively, we are the patient voice for the rare kidney disease sector, and specifically ADTKD and others. We work with members of Congress through the Every Life Foundation's work, and also eventually with the FDA to build a case. Okay, let's talk about the foundation's progress to date. The Broad Institute, Wake Forest, and a startup company that's received funding have requested that our patient foundation help them find literally tens of thousands of patients that are undiagnosed with ADTKD. And why? Because they're very close to finding a compound, possibly within the next 3 to 5 years, to take to the FDA for a phase 1 study. And many of those undiagnosed patients are on dialysis. In fact, the National Kidney Foundation, a recent conversation, and we work closely with them also, is 20% of those that are on dialysis don't know why they're on dialysis. Well, if you're on dialysis and you don't know, our last slide will talk about contacting us, because you need to do that. There really is hope, and there really is a treatment in the pipeline. The second one is building trusted community, like we've already talked. We have alliances in place with the AAKP, Paul Conway and Diana Klein. Incredibly helpful. They've allowed us to get our message out. We don't want to reinvent any wheel. We have such a special message to share with all of the kidney organizations, especially those of you that are listening, the patients that are listening, the family members that are listening today, that there is a treatment in the pipeline. And we have a new executive director, our first, which is guiding our leadership team of 16. We have a new strategic plan that we're finalizing that has metrics and timelines, and we're eager to execute on that and work closely with our allies like ASN and AAKP, as I mentioned earlier. Partnerships include the National Kidney Foundation, the Mayo Clinic, and the PKD Foundation. I'd like to share my story with you. You can see this is a reunion on a beautiful lake in northern Utah and southern Idaho. We're celebrating my father's 100th birthday, but he wasn't with us. He passed away many years before at age 43. He was a young doctor, young surgeon, and passed that mutant gene, that MUC1 gene, along to 4 out of 6 of us who are all in this picture. 2 are no longer there. I've lost a sister and a brother in the last 8 years, 7 years. And so this really motivates me, and it motivates the others on the foundation leadership team and our cause and the great people we work with. So the Broad Institute in 2016, under the direction of Dr. Anna Greca, worked with us, worked with Tony Blyer, and that's why I retired 6 years ago from my career. At the time this was happening, there were only 600 of us in the world that were diagnosed with this disease. Then it went to 2000, with good fortune of adding the UMOD community, about the same number. And in 2021, things changed. All of a sudden, we became a large population with a real opportunity to find a treatment. Because nobody's going to care about a population of 600 or 2,000. They are going to care about 100,000 patients that are undiagnosed in the United States and many, many multiple of that globally. And that's why a startup company is pursuing this currently with compounds from the broad to stop this disease. So the statement there at the bottom is a little dated. We hope that within, and we plan to working with closely with this startup, that within the next 3 to 5 years we'll have a treatment. Well, that's revolutionary in the genetic kidney disease world, to actually have the promise of a drug therapy to stop the disease within such a short period of time. Let me just comment briefly about the family. The family has, as I mentioned, 21. That's a very interesting population to the Mayo Clinic and now to the Broad Institute and to Dr. Blyer at Wake Forest. And so that's why we've been willing to be in many, many tests, more than I ever expected. But we're all in. We're going to find a treatment and a cure. So why should you care? Many of you are on dialysis. Many of you are kidney patients. Some of you actually have genetic kidney diseases. But many, many of you don't know why you have failed kidneys and you have a disease. 20% of those on dialysis, according to the National Kidney Foundation, don't know why their kidneys have failed or why they're on dialysis. 10% is the estimate, rough estimate of patients of nephrologists. Nephrologists don't know why, nor do the patients. So this is really exciting to be working on a therapy to stop this disease. So after losing two of my siblings that were in that picture in the last 6 years, and having their families very motivated also to find some answers, I would think that many of you might also want to find answers. And that's why you should contact us. You should go to our website at rarekidney.org. We'd love to hear from you. Do it today. We'd love to have you see our newsletter, which comes out quarterly. And if you have any questions, contact us. We've got a great executive director. We've got a great motivated team of 16 on the leadership team. All have ADTKD. We've professionalized the organization. We're moving forward. We're making great, great progress. And if you want peace of mind, if you want answers to how to slow the progression of your kidney failure, your kidneys, we really need your help to identify yourselves. And again, you can do this confidentially. That's been one of the hang-ups in the past, but it'll be explained to you before you give any information to the Wake Forest registry, how this can be totally confidential. And your siblings don't need to know. No one needs to know. That's a very, very important part of this. So as I wrap up, I hope you'll also look for the link on our website around the 28th of September, when Dr. Anna Greca will be giving a major TED Talk up in Vancouver, Canada. It hasn't been released yet, but she'll talk about the Patient Foundation and what we're doing, working closely with her and Wake Forest. So have a great day and add some hope to your life. Contact us. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Richard. We are always excited to hear the great work your foundation is doing and how AAKP can play such a supporting role in your efforts. I'd like to welcome another great friend of AAKP, Dr. Raymond Vanholder. Dr. Vanholder is a renowned international expert in nephrology and serves as the president of the European Kidney Health Alliance. He has published more than 900 papers, including reviews and book chapters on adequacy of dialysis, uremic toxicity, and various topics related to clinical nephrology. He serves as a member of the editorial review board of several journals and is a subject editor of nephrology, dialysis, and transplantation and toxins. You may recognize Dr. Vanholder from previous AAKP events where he spoke on topics such as EU's adoption of the AAKP-led initiative, decade of the kidney and natural and unnatural emergency implications of kidney patients. Today, Dr. Vanholder joins us as co-author of the paper, A Policy Call to Address Rare Kidney Diseases in Healthcare Plans, featured in the June 2023 issue of the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology. Dr. Vanholder, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hernandez, for this introduction. And also thanks to the American Association for Kidney Patients to allow me to take part in this important meeting. I have been asked to discuss with you this paper that we published recently in Clinical Journal of American Society of Nephrology that is called A Policy Call to Address Rare Kidney Disease in Healthcare Plans, which is a call to make more advocacy, to think about and to advance the case of rare kidney diseases, which for the time being are under diagnosed and also under treated. And a role in this advocacy should be played by all stakeholders, and that includes as well the kidney patients. The authors are of a different kind and with different expertise. There are a number of general nephrologists, such as Dr. Ortiz and myself, Rosana Coppo, who is a pediatrician and a specialist in IgA nephropathy, Dr. Bos, who is more specialized in quality of life, Dr. Fakuri, that's for atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome. Mr. Humphreys is a patient. Jonut Nistor, like myself, has experience with guidelines. And then we have Franz Schaefer, who is a pediatrician and the head of a European Rare Kidney Disease Network, ERCNET. Now, this paper was published on behalf of the European Kidney Health Alliance. That's the European advocacy agency, an NGO based in Brussels that defends the case of kidney patients and of the nephrological community at the level of the European Union. We have 5 full members, which are all large European organizations for kidney diseases. And in the middle, you see 31 for the time being, so not 29, but 31 affiliated members who are mostly national societies, and we are supported by a number of companies. This chart is a kind of diagram of the procedure that was followed. There was an online literature search with a number of keywords whereby the most relevant papers were selected. And that was completed by a hand search of publications that appeared from that literature search. Based on this, a background text was written that would be the basis for further discussion. And then the experts were convened in a roundtable meeting that lasted 2 days in the beginning of February 2022. Now, as this was in the midst of the COVID crisis, this meeting was held online. That then emanated in a larger text which contained the policy recommendations, and that text was condensed and for the rest also further extended on a certain number of details by the publication that we are discussing today. And based on this, we will now build further and go for more policy action with the European Commission and the European Parliament. What the paper also contains at the beginning is a cost estimation of a number of rare kidney diseases. Of course, these are 7 or 8 diseases. That's of course not the whole spectrum. There must be something like 200 or even more rare kidney diseases. But you see that it's about a very solid amount of money, something in the range of $70 billion all over worldwide, with most of the expenses in middle income countries, very few in low income countries, and then also quite substantial in high income countries. But this is a huge amount of money, and of course that's only about dialysis and only about a few rare kidney diseases. So if you take all this together, it must be very substantial. Out of experience, we know that the cost for kidney disease in general before dialysis and transplantation, if you take everything together, is higher just simply because of the sheer number of patients than the cost for dialysis and transplantation. So if you would add all this up, you would come to very consistent sums. On top of that, we can assume that for rare kidney diseases, the costs are even higher because there are a number of comorbidities. These are mostly or quite often genetic diseases that affect multiple organs. And then you get more complications, and also the progression of the disease is sometimes more severe than for more traditional forms of chronic kidney diseases. What the paper also contains is a statement that not everything is negative, and actually that we made a lot of progress recently, and that for a number of specific rare kidney diseases, there are now therapeutic solutions. That was not the case 10 years ago. So there has been progress. But again, that is not enough because these are only a few of the rare kidney diseases. And on top of that, except for a number of children diseases like cystinosis and primary hyperoxaluria, where the treatment is applied very early and where a quite substantial improvement can be obtained. For the others, improvement is only partial. It's not a return to normal. It is a slowing down of progression. And on top of that, one can assume that not one size fits all. So there are better responders, worse responders. So there is really a need for more research and more innovation to make this area progress, and still a lot of work needs to be done. Now then, in the paper there are a number of tables. In next now I'm going to discuss with you the 2 following tables. Table 2 that is summing up a number of challenges, and then the next one that is citing approaches. I will not discuss this now in detail like this because the slides are too busy, but I have tried to summarize everything in the next 4 slides. And this one then is showing the challenges and the needs in the area of awareness and your rightization. You will see that there are always a number of bullet points above. Those are the challenges, and then below bullet points are the needs. So what are the challenges? Well, first of all, limited prioritization by policymakers. That's just because they are not aware, quite often not aware of kidney disease. So there is a general task of education versus the general population, which include policymakers. My feeling is that kidney patients sometimes are a little bit too discreet about their condition, and I would insist on the important role of patients in all this to make policymakers aware of their problem and explaining really the burden and all the challenges that they are facing. There is not enough focus on prevention and progression, which includes also not enough focus on screening. At least here in Europe, there is no consistent screening plan for kidney diseases. And the consequence is that the disease is recognized when it is too late and when there is already substantial kidney damage with a lot of scar that cannot be turned around. So all this, the screening needs to be harmonized and systematized, and then there must also be an appropriate response to this with appropriate preventive measures. There is limited awareness among physicians and patients. This is again an issue of education also of the general population. And finally, there are not enough data, and without data, one can not very well design the policy to respond to a problem. And what we need, or what should be done, is to increase awareness, so more awareness campaigns, clinical, about the clinical burden to a patient, but also the economical burden, the cost of kidney diseases, which is unknown to many. And in fact, also the environmental burden, because hemodialysis is an extremely ecologic, environment unfriendly treatment with lots of water, lots of plastic, and lots of energy consumption. We are in need of proper guidelines and educational campaigns that has been explained already, better registration, and a focus on early detection and healthcare action plan. Also, this has been explained. Then about diagnosis, there is an inadequate implementation of urinary screening. That means urine is really the most easy thing to obtain, easier than blood. But there is no system in screening of urine. One of the proposals here in Europe is to couple it to screening for colon cancer. And we know that if this would be done in a proper way for detecting albuminuria, and if albuminuria would also be reimbursed in a convenient way, that then obviously not only chronic kidney disease and the need for dialysis, but also cardiovascular complications would be diminished. There are limitations of the current diagnostic methods. With albuminuria, one doesn't detect everything. With serum creatinine, one comes late. There is hematuria, which is not often checked, which is a quite important additional marker. But all this is certainly not enough. And what we are needing is more specific biomarkers, which are not available for the time being. Of the ones that are available are extremely expensive. There is an inadequate knowledge of genetic determinants, and many of these diseases have at least a genetic factor or are fully genetic. But how it exactly works is not entirely known. So that's an area that needs more research. And there is a delay in diagnosis, and on top of that, in many countries, genetic testing is just simply not reimbursed. So here, what we need is more research on how diagnosis should be done. Something to be added about diagnosis is that, of course, the gold standard is and remains kidney biopsy, but kidney biopsy is cumbersome, is causing a number of complications, and is difficult to perform. It's possible to perform on a repetitive basis, but this is not really what a patient would want. It's painful, and there are some small risks. So this is something where we need to have something alternative, and this biomarker thing could really replace biopsies if it's working perfectly well. Expand the offerings of genetic testing, and then also more systematized urine screening. Now, research and development. There are not enough targeted treatments. I gave you some examples at the beginning of this presentation, but that's only a small list of possible diseases. There are challenges with the clinical study design, and those challenges are mostly related to the fact that as these diseases are rare, it is sometimes difficult to get enough patients to enroll in a study. And that then is coming into conflict with the current principles of evidence-based medicine. And there is a poor translation of research findings into clinical care. Here, we need more research and development on diagnosis and treatment. That seems obvious. There also needs to be an accurate translation from research to the clinics. And then an important point, we need more evidence-based therapy assessments, but if needed with surrogate endpoints. I explained already that the number of patients is sometimes difficult to obtain. Real hard outcome clinical studies last very long, and therefore our proposal is that when it would not be possible to develop a randomized controlled trial in the classical way, that then there is a need for surrogate endpoints, for instance, the slope of serum creatinine or glomerular filtration rate or a change in albuminuria, so that it is not necessary to go according to the classical procedure. And there is certainly a need for more investment as well of policymakers as from industry. Although we must say that there is really progress and that there is, again, more interest for kidney diseases than 10 years ago. And there is a need for more collaboration among countries and among units and researchers. And then the final challenges and needs regarding management. There is a lack of guidelines. There is a limited use of the guidelines if they exist. And with guidelines, I mean really guidelines about rare kidney diseases, not more general guidelines. There is a limited access to care for quite a number of patients. And there are also inequities in access, inequities among countries or among regions within countries, or between people who are living in rural areas compared to those living in the city. Those in rural areas have more difficulties, and also among social classes, which means that in general the poor, the low education group, the minorities, etc., have more difficult access to appropriate care, and that makes them vulnerable, with, on the other hand, the fact that they are also more prone to develop chronic diseases. There is not enough management of progression. Still, a number of people believe that the solution for kidney diseases is dialysis, and that is a good tool to treat, but that's not a good tool. That's the thing that should be avoided. So everything should occur earlier, and the focus should be really to slow down the progression of kidney disease as much as possible. And there is not enough contact time between physician and patients. Solutions for this: homogenize access across regions and classes. That's really a political responsibility. Need for clinical guidelines, need for more nephrologists. Of course, there is a shortage of health personnel that is becoming worse rather than to improve. And the need for multidisciplinary teams. Quite often these rare kidney diseases are not affecting only kidneys, so there is a need for consideration also of other aspects of the disease, and therefore sometimes, or quite often, other specialists are needed. Just for your information, at the end, the paper also contains a list of a number of organizations that are working in the area of rare kidney diseases. Probably the list is not complete, but at least it is citing the most important ones. And that will then be my final slide. So that was also the final figure. It's a kind of condensation of everything with a number of actions that need to be done in the area of rare kidney diseases. Things also that we need to stress with policymakers on where changes are necessary. I will discuss with you only the ones in bold, but I stimulate you to read the paper. It's open access, so everybody can accede to the text but did a kind of a voting system among the experts. So these are the bold ones are really the ones that came out on top of the list. Also taking into account that if you go to policymakers, you have to make a selection, and probably you have to come up with 2, maximum 3 things, so you can pick what you think the most important among all these. So in the area, if we start on the left above and then go clockwise, awareness and prioritization, recommend early diagnosis in national plans, launch education campaigns targeted toward physicians and patients. In the area of diagnosis, introduce policies to promote genetic testing and implement screening programs. In management, develop clinical guidelines specific to rare kidney diseases and improve access to innovative therapies. And in therapeutic innovation, allocate research and development funds to rare kidney diseases and generate evidence to expand understanding rare kidney diseases. But I will finish with a call to all patients that we actually very much are needing them, and that they have to play their role in this thing and be vocal about what their disease is about, because many people do not know. I thank you for your attention.
Dr. Vanholder, thank you for taking the time to be a part of the AAKP National Patient Meeting. We appreciate the information you provided today. From our first 2 speakers, we learned the need for continued research and innovation in rare kidney diseases. Now, our next speaker will speak to the industry's role in providing solutions. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Peter Richardson, Executive Vice President and Chief Scientific Officer for Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. Dr. Richardson will speak to Mallinckrodt's commitment to the rare kidney disease space. Welcome, Dr. Richardson.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, AAKP, for the opportunity to speak at this. I'm Dr. Peter Richardson, Chief Scientific Officer of Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. Our mission is to listen to needs and deliver solutions. And for more than 8 years, we've had the privilege to work with the American Association of Kidney Patients to advocate for the kidney community. Through our continued partnership with AAKP, we're listening to your collective voice, gaining critical insights about your needs, and working to deliver solutions for patients, caregivers, and physicians who are faced with unmet medical needs. In my 30 years as working in the pharmaceutical industry, and in my career as a physician, I've had the opportunity to work with several companies. I chose to come to Mallinckrodt this past January because of the company's innovations and commitment to patients dealing with rare disease. Across our global organization, our employees keep patients front and center. Every Mallinckrodt employee, no matter what their role within our company, knows that what they do has a profound effect on patients around the world, especially those in need of medical solutions addressing rare diseases and critical conditions. We recognize that our work ensures patients access to transformative therapies. We are inspired by you, by your courage and perseverance in the face of disease to make a difference. As a physician, I know the value of patient insights early and throughout the process of drug development. Each day, the FDA is doing more and more to ensure that companies like Mallinckrodt are incorporating the patient voice into research and development. It's the patient who truly enables us to learn and develop life-changing medicines. And it's organizations like AAKP, and through all of you working diligently each day to amplify your voices, that we are seeing advances in research policy and patient care within the kidney community. It's extraordinary the impact AAKP has had since its founding in 1969. It's one of the many reasons we are so fortunate to work with you in the area of nephrotic syndrome, which includes glomerular diseases manifested by excessive protein in the urine. Like so many diseases, nephrotic syndrome not only affects patients, but also their families and friends who struggle to understand the patient's journey and how to help reduce the burden of disease and, in turn, improve the patient's quality of life. Your advocacy and ability to educate others in order to impact policy is invaluable in building understanding, both within and outside the community. It's important to Mallinckrodt to work side by side with you to advance care and awareness. We are proud to be a sponsor of AAKP's 48th Annual National Patient Meeting and support the broad reach this meeting and the AAKP has both here in the US and globally. With kidney disease growing at an alarming rate and currently affecting 1 in 7 or 15% of American adults, the discussions taking place at this year's meeting will be critical in furthering AAKP's ongoing mission. On behalf of my colleagues at Mallinckrodt, I wish you a successful meeting. We look forward to our continued work together.
Thank you, Dr. Richardson. As a rare kidney disease patient, I'm grateful for companies such as yours that seek out the need and work tirelessly to drive solutions. I'd like to thank all of today's session speakers and hope that everyone feels as inspired as I do about the future of those with rare conditions.